creature of the shadows. There I was, alone at home. Another day of work had passed and nothing new had happened. The same old routine. Wake up, work, sleep. My personal life was also calm, with few outings with friends or colleagues, partly because I worked far away, on a highway 30 kilometers from my house. But since my family owned a small farm just 3 kilometers from the factory, I decided to start living alone. At first, it didn't seem like a good idea. I'd have to do all the chores like cleaning the house, organizing my room, and cooking. But over time, I started to live life my way. I made simple meals, cleaned the house occasionally, since I had no visitors, and left my room messy. Perhaps the only fear I had was what my mind created, as I am quite imaginative. Any noise outside would have me peeking through the windows. It's been a year and a half living this way, but something changed that night. It was around 11 o'clock at night, and I was already in bed when the dogs started barking nonstop. I went to the side window to see where they were. They were on the side of the house looking at the gate. I then moved to the living room window. When I looked at the gate, I saw a figure standing there. I was startled but kept watching. I went to my room to get my phone and noticed there was no signal. When I returned, the person had disappeared. I figured they had left, and everything was fine. The dogs had quieted down, and I stayed in bed, alert. I was almost asleep when I heard a noise in the basement. I looked down and saw light shining through the gaps in the wooden floor. Panic set in. I knew I couldn't move and give away any sign of movement. I stayed still until I heard the door close. I rushed to the living room and positioned myself on the stairs leading to the attic. I climbed silently and watched through a peephole. I heard the lock being forced until a loud bang broke it. Now the house was open. I stayed alert, hidden. The intruder walked around the house and then began to climb the stairs. When he reached the top, I saw that his face was covered by a black mask, hiding any human features. What scared me even more was that he had nothing in his hands, no knife or weapon. As he moved to the other side of the room, he disappeared into the darkness. I remained on high alert, wondering how he did that. Then I heard a creak on the wood. I turned and saw the figure standing, watching me. As I tried to move to escape, the figure jumped on me. We started to struggle, with me trying to push him away, but nothing worked. He pinned me to the ground and placed his hands around my neck, squeezing. I felt the pain and panic, struggling to pry his hands away, but to no avail. In a final desperate attempt, I decided to try to see the face of my attacker. I reached for his mask, and the moment I touched it, his grip on my neck loosened. He stood motionless. I didn't think much about it and pulled the mask off. Underneath the hood, there was nothing, just emptiness, and the entire figure dissolved into a wisp of black smoke. I felt relieved, free, and alive. I fell asleep right there. The next morning, I woke up still holding the mask. I took it to the basement, found a wooden box, and buried it. Now, as I head to work, I wonder if I have defeated the creature of the shadows for good or if it will return one day. Bianca. After years and years searching for the perfect woman, I finally found her. Throughout my life, I encountered blondes, brunettes, tall, short, slim, curvy, white, black, and many other types of women. I met various personalities, but none possessed what I needed most, a woman with a deep desire for submission to a man. I tirelessly sought this type of person, but most of the time, the submission I needed was only found in bed. During my journey through college and my career as a plastic surgeon, I fell in love with women and their stunning appearances. However, as I got to know them more deeply and identified the lack of this characteristic, I quickly lost interest and moved on. But it was in the hospital that I found the one who would forever hold my heart. I was asked by other surgeons to visit and examine a woman to discharge her, as it was late and few doctors were on duty. I hesitated at first, being too tired to make visits at that hour. After all, her relatives wouldn't pick her up until morning, but I eventually agreed to go. It was, without a doubt, the best decision of my life. Bianca was a woman who appeared to be between 20 and 30 years old, though she was actually 42. She was a blonde with beautiful blue eyes, perfectly aligned teeth, and skin as white as the first snow. She didn't speak, nor did she disobey any instructions I gave during the examination. I was captivated by her demeanor and appearance. On that early Tuesday morning, I had finally found the woman who would always be by my side. That same night, after discharging her, I took Bianca to my home, having discovered she had nowhere else to go. I put her in my car and we drove to my place, where she rested beside me in my bed, without a single complaint, just like the ideal woman I had always dreamed of. After 3 years together, Bianca began to age. She no longer had the same smooth skin she had when we first met. Her once bright blue eyes had dulled, and her teeth had started to decay. Luckily for her, she had married a renowned surgeon who could enhance her beauty even more than she had at the beginning of our relationship. For 3 months, I performed surgeries on Bianca, alone in my house. I spent long hours in the bedroom, operating and transforming her into an even more perfect woman. Bianca, ever resilient, never asked for anesthesia, and I operated on her without it. She didn't complain, enduring everything with a smile that only I could bring to her face. After all the procedures, Bianca was flawless. I had created a new woman, incorporating the most striking features of other women who had fascinated me. She had the upturned, delicate nose of Dr. Deborah, the rosy, full lips of Dr. Evelyn, the identical breasts of Dr. Shirley, the neurologist, the small, delicate ears of Dr. Stephanie, and the eyes of Dr. Nusa. I am writing this to record these unforgettable moments that this apartment provided not only for me, but also for Bianca. We are moving now, as it's the wisest thing to do. The police will surely arrive at this apartment in a few hours once they realize the disappearance of 5 doctors from the hospital where I work. They will find them dead, with parts of their bodies mutilated. This would surely land me years and years in prison. But I would undoubtedly make the headlines once they discovered that all these body parts from my colleagues are sewn onto a corpse that I have been carrying with me for 3 years, and this type of visibility is not what I need right now. Something pale and silent. I recently moved into a new apartment, and with limited funds, I had to settle for the only habitable place in a row of nearly abandoned buildings. My building was the only one accessible, and compared to the others, it had potential. There was no electricity when I moved in, no curtains, no carpets, but at least there was water. It was a particularly tough time in my life, details I'll leave out, and I was grateful for a fresh start. I could make a big step forward here once I got some furniture. The first night asterisk, I decided to sleep there, even without a mattress, and just a few candles to light my way, although I could find the bathroom by smell alone. After setting up camp in what I thought was the main room, I began my meal of cold beans and biscuits. I promised myself that once the sun rose, things would feel more comfortable, and I could start tidying up. After rummaging through the cabinets and drawers for treasures and finding only a handful of curtain hooks and a shoebox full of old notebooks, probably left by the previous tenant, I decided to curl up in a corner and use my jacket as a bed. Trying to sleep hunched over, with nothing to look at but a dark window, wasn't easy, and the thought of what might be lurking outside kept my focus on that window all night. As expected, I didn't sleep much and decided to walk around the place a bit more. I found a box of old photos in the fireplace, each showing 6 people at the same window, with their mouths open and a pale shape in the reflection that I couldn't make out. I decided to forget about them since those photos gave me chills. The second night asterisk, I was starting to feel more comfortable, and though most of my belongings were still in boxes and the place was yet unfurnished, daylight allowed me to explore better and planned how I would set up the space. I even tacked an old blanket over that window to keep anything from spying on me and to put a stop to my wild imagination. By candlelight, I occupied myself reading the faint handwriting in the old notebooks I had found. It was the only available entertainment, but what I found was quite intriguing. Dating back 5 years, there were a total of 6 notebooks, one for each tenant, and each had only one entry: rent paid for 1 month, and nothing else but blank pages. Something wasn't right. All 6 previous tenants stayed for only a month or less. Starting to feel scared, I decided to go to the bathroom before my last candle went out completely and made my way down the hall towards that dreadful bathroom, watching my shadow dance across the faded walls until we met again at the bathroom door. The smell was so strong I could taste it, and I was unbuttoning my pants when the last candle flickered out. I'm not sure where I peed, but I can say it was the longest pee of my life. I was not only in complete darkness, but also couldn't hold my breath for long. I rushed out as fast as I could, but where was I running? The realization that there were no more candles hit me, and with it, a thick darkness blanketed the walls. The creaking floorboards began to sound like whispers, and the dampness on every surface seemed alive to the touch as I blindly ran my hands along the walls. Finally finding the door, I entered the main room and carefully made my way to the window. Maybe some light from the street or passing cars could illuminate the room if I just removed the sheet I had tacked up. That window, which had made me so uncomfortable, was now my only hope. Reaching through the darkness to pull down the sheet, I felt the cold glass. The sheet came away, and as my eyes adjusted, I saw it. On the other side of the dark window, something pale and silent watched me, with its mouth open, waiting for my next move.